It gets me. It gets me here. It gets me here. Gets me right here.
Just so the listeners know, he pointed to his balls 3 times, which was weird.
Well, I have 3 of them, so I like to account for each ball. With his crop top t-shirt that he bought at a Goodwill.
The kids these days and their crocodile shoes.
Made from real crocodiles. Welcome to Your Inner Child is an Idiot, the podcast where we look back on things from our childhood and wonder if they were any good to begin with. My name is Damon.
My name's DJ. Natural. Very good.
I like that I take on a cadence that I have never spoken in. Like a sing-song cadence, like I'm like improvising a sonnet suddenly. Or like, I gotta get the I-ams right.
Like
just natural.
That goes up at the end of every sentence, even though there's no reason for it. And so, yeah. It's fine. We're doing a podcast. We're professional podcasters. Our patrons pay
We're
good
podcasters.
money. What are we doing, Damon? What are we doing?
We are doing a movie today. We're doing a film.
Movie. Okay.
Film.
Right.
We are, and I think I have this correct. This is the oldest movie we have ever done on the podcast.
Oh.
Unless I'm forgetting a glaring mistake. This is the oldest movie we've ever done. It is
Citizen Kane.
No, it's Two Men Dancing by Thomas Alva Edison. We're going to love it. It takes about 3 seconds to watch.
Ahoy hoy. It's just Edison.
Alexander Graham Bell calls in the middle of it and he has to stop the tape. This is a special effects movie.
Okay.
It's also a family film.
Okay.
Both of its stars are still alive. It's a musical.
Okay. Special effects musical.
It's about 85% live action.
85% live action.
And the star, the star was
I've never seen Fantasia.
Was
obviously.
going to be in My Fair Lady, and she didn't get the role, so she did this movie instead.
What the fuck are you talking about?
There was a sequel somewhat recently. 50% of the 2 leads came back. One notably did not.
I am at a loss. Can you give me an era of this?
1960s.
1960s, Damon. Damon.
No.
Okay, and it's a musical, Singing in the Rain.
No, that's the 1950s. Come on, Deej. If you're not going to take this seriously, this is a Disney movie.
Okay. Chitty Chitty Bang Bang?
You're close. One of the stars of Chitty Chitty Bang Bang is in this.
Bed Knobs and Broomsticks?
You're getting closer because a different star from Bed Knobs and Broomsticks is in this movie as well.
I think I'm out of material.
Think of London. Think of
Mary Poppins?
Nannies. Yes, we're doing Mary Poppins.
Okay, all right.
One of my go-to movies as a kid, not now. Have you ever seen this movie?
I have not. I've not seen it. And tell me more about your hints, because I think that threw me off the scent a little bit.
I apologize because they were scattershot.
I don't blame you. I just blame it. I don't never seen it.
2 leads were still alive, which is a very vague hint.
Yeah.
So think of all the dead people that have ever lived. Not them.
Not them.
So start there.
I was going to start with Genghis Khan, and then I immediately was like, well, shit, now I don't know.
Julie Andrews, Dick Van Dyke are both in this. Dick Van Dyke is the star of Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. David Tomlinson plays the father in this movie. He is in Bed Knobs and Broomsticks.
Okay.
What were my other hints? Disney. So Julie Andrews originated the role in My Fair Lady of Eliza Doolittle.
Oh, okay.
And when they made the movie, they didn't cast her. Jack Warner at Warner Brothers was like, we're going to do Audrey Hepburn instead, even though you originated this role. And notably, Audrey Hepburn can't fucking sing.
Yeah.
So Julie Andrews, when she accepted her Oscar for winning Best Actress for Mary Poppins, she bitchily thanked Jack Warner for rejecting her because she was up against Audrey Hepburn in the Best Actress category.
Damn.
I love Julie Andrews. She's probably the closest thing I have to my gay icon. I love her. Prim and proper, follows rules, magical nanny. Those are my 3 rules for gay icon status. I also have wig blindness. This is the first movie where I realized I had wig blindness because I could not put together that this woman and Maria von Trapp were the same lady. I could not equate those things together.
I still refuse to believe that. I've never seen either of those, though, so I don't.
You've never seen?
I've seen pieces
My Fair Lady.
I've seen both Sound of Music and this in pieces, but I've never seen them like sitting down to watch a movie. So
you never done a Julie Andrews marathon?
No, and as far
I
as
call
I'm
it playing
concerned-
St. Andrews is when I do that.
So this was special to you as a child?
This was special to me. Here is my memory of Mary Poppins because we taped it off the Disney Sunday movie on ABC.
Mm-hmm.
But I had homework that I hadn't done, so I was not able to watch it live. My parents taped it off the TV. Now, the problem with that was I was apparently seeing ads for Mary Poppins as we know and love her. But there was also a Joan Rivers special or something that was going on that same week. Maybe she was like hosting the Tonight Show for Johnny Carson that week, like she tended to do.
Yeah.
And
so you can
in my head,
Rivers
I thought that Joan Rivers, her name was Mary Poppins. So on Monday, when I finally got to watch Mary Poppins, I popped in and expecting a rough New York accent, and I was like, "What is this?" But I loved it nonetheless. This movie can make me cry because it is about absent parents learning that they should be more involved in their children's lives. And I also like that Mary Poppins is very charming, but she also is kind of gaslighting the kids in that they're always talking about all the magical adventures they're going on with other people. And she's like, I don't know what you're talking about. So it's real problematic. It's sort of problematic in that way.
Yeah.
But I also like this part animation. So they will go on adventures and they're surrounded by like animated characters. So it's almost like a proto Roger Rabbit in that way. And that's why Disney really wanted to make this movie. The other thing I found out later in life is that I love the song Sister Suffragette, which is an early song sung by Glynis Johns in the first third of this movie because she is a suffragette in I almost said ancient London. That's not how time works. But I found out later that my brother's favorite song from this movie, like in adulthood, I found out that Jason loves Sister Suffragette. That's his favorite song from this movie as well.
I think.
So have I hyped it up again? Are you like, oh my God, this should be part of the modern filmscape of my life?
We discussed recently about in another episode that we were addressing a hole in your cultural experience, and that's going to be this for me. Possibly because I'm not an English schoolboy, I don't have a lot of like nanny movies. Like they don't really resonate with me, and so like the beginning of Peter Pan, like this movie.
Well, in that one, they just leave him in the care of a dog named Nanny, which seems like, just
that
abhorrent.
That's negligence.
That's just standard negligence.
Yeah,
that dog could eat the kids.
Yeah, and he did actually in the sequel. I can't prove that. So
the dog ate the kids. Come on.
I have very little to add to this one. I know that just a spoonful of sugar does, in fact, help the medicine go down. So
any doctor would say that to you.
Yeah. Is this the one with which one's the one with the semi-racist character? That's not this one.
Now I can't write that off of this movie. I don't know. I can't remember if there are any semi-racist characters. Are you thinking of Breakfast at Tiffany's with Mickey Rooney?
No, I mean, yeah, that definitely has one.
I mean, I'm not thinking about it, but I'm thinking about it now, and I'm
thinking about it
once you said it up.
Maybe
I'm trying to think, what would there be a racist? I don't know if there is.
I think just all movies from the 60s have one. Like, you have to, like, kind of...
I mean, it's a very white cast.
The studios demanded it.
Quite literally. I don't know of any outright racist characters in this,
Okay.
unless I'm forgetting something. Is it racist to make the penguins all waiters? Is that problematic?
Yes.
Ooh, well, then I've got bad news for you.
Speciest at the very least.
They're already dressed for the job. Can I say that? It's like we can't even make jokes anymore.
Liberals.
I am excited about this. We'll talk about it on the other side. On the other side is a phrase I say, because we're going to go watch the movie.
Yeah, join us on the other side. We're going to watch Mary Poppins
2 and 2. I know a man with a wooden leg. Stay with me.
Okay.
Named patreon.com/your inner child is an idiot.
What's his other leg called?
I love to laugh. Loud and long and clear. 3 adjectives I use to describe laughter often. Clear laughter.
If you'd like to hear more of Damon's beauteous laugh, you can hear special Patreon-only episodes, patreon.com/your inner child is an idiot.
You know, I was this close to getting the role of Uncle Albert, and do you think it was the actual laugh I provided that Walt Disney was like, get him out of here?
Yeah, he was... Walt Disney produced this movie, and he was very hands-on, and he was like, get this fucking guy out of here. I will murder him.
Also, my membership card to the U.S. Communist Party fell out of my wallet, so that might have also been a factor that Walt Disney did not want me anywhere near his production.
And we are back. We watched Mary Poppins.
Not before, prior to her return, the original arrival of Mary Poppins.
Yeah.
Ground
Mary
zero
Poppins.
of Mary Poppins.
They wouldn't call it Mary Poppins 1 until Mary Poppins 2 came out, obviously.
Right.
So.
They called it the Great Mary Poppins. And then when they had the second Mary Poppins, they changed it back to...
Is that the second World War 1/2 reference we made this episode? I can't remember.
That's correct.
That's the problem about recording your intros and the rest of your show separately. Sometimes you make the same joke. Would you like to recap this movie for the fine folks?
Would I?
The world.
So there are 2 wayward little brats, Jane and Michael Banks, and they are they're running through the nannies of the turn of the century London area. And, finally Katie Nana, their latest nanny, lost them in the park. And she's like, you know what? Deuces, I'm out of here. I cannot stand these kids. Peace out.
Don't know where they are. Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it. It's 1910. Who gives a shit where your kids are? You'll just have more. They're
There's
probably
not like
working the factories.
There's not a famous serial killer around here this time, is there?
Wasn't Albert Fish stateside, or am I thinking of someone? Oh, you're thinking of Jack the Ripper. Was
that earlier? I think
yeah,
that was
but the kids aren't sex workers.
I mean, at the time, they didn't. I don't think they knew the pattern right away, right?
Oh, I guess I figured they'd pick up on it pretty quickly. Like, there's this dead sex worker here.
I mean,
and then there's a second.
You really only need 2 before you're kind of like, I think I see a pattern here.
Anyway, that's enough. DJ, please stop always steering the podcast to child sex workers, please. Mr. Banks works, it's easy to remember, there's a mnemonic device. He works at a bank. Mrs. Banks is a political activist for the women's suffrage movement. And the kids eventually come home. They're brought home by a constable, a bobby, you might call them. And Mr. Banks puts in a request for a new nanny with the proper authorities, mostly the Times of London classified section. Eventually, a woman comes flying on an umbrella onto their stoop and takes the job. And while she's stern and a little bit,
weird,
maybe weird, she reveals herself to be magical. Helps them clean up their playroom with just snapping, and everything falls into place, almost killing Michael in the process. They jump into a sidewalk drawing and go for a jolly holiday with a working class gentleman by the name of Bert. And then, they're just having so much fun. They win a race on carousel horses, and then they jump out of the thing. They properly ward off pneumonia by taking medicine. And then they were going to just pick up gingerbread, but instead they find out that Mary's uncle, Albert, has the laughing fits that cause him to float towards the ceiling, and they have to go and rescue him by forcing him to get depressed. That works like a dream. And then it's Mary's day off, so she tricks Mr. Banks, who is starting to become quite consternated with Mary's style of raising children. And she tricks him into taking him to his office, where Mary Poppins indirectly causes a run on the bank and almost causes a recession in Great Britain. The kids run away. They run into Bert again, who's now currently, he's the original hustle culture guy. He's now working as a chimney sweep. He takes the kids home. Mrs. Banks, who's about to go to an event for Votes for Women, she tricks Bert into watching the kids because it's Mary's day off. Mary comes home just in time to see the kids get sucked up into the chimney, and they go for an adventure on the rooftops of London in a delightfully melancholic moment. They sing Chim Chim Cheree, everyone's favorite minor key song from a Disney movie. And then they dance with Jimmy
Be prepared
Sweeps.
with like a word.
I love Be Prepared. I love a minor key song. And then what happens? Oh, Mary's like, you know what? Kate and Anna was right. I'm out of here. And then she flies away on the west wind. But the kids, I forgot to mention their father loses his job at the bank because of the run, you know?
Yeah.
They don't look too kindly on, economic distress in these times. So they fire him.
They don't have the FDIC, and certainly not in the UK.
Certainly. And they fire him, but he realizes the joy of being around for your children's childhood, and they go fly a kite, and he gets his job back just by coincidence, and Mary floats off into the ether.
Yeah.
Is that good? I think I did better. That's one of my better recaps.
Yeah.
Especially for a movie that really has no plot.
Yeah, it's kind of just vignettes
happens.
Of things that happen, but I have some Mary questions here.
Okay, so she arrived from the Undying Lands in a ship shortly after Saruman and Radagast arrive in Middle-earth.
She's a Maiar, is that right?
Yeah, she is a Maya spirit. Okay. She's eternal. She has the fire ring because Círdan the shipwright immediately gave it to her and said, you're going to need this more than I.
Okay. Is that why she lives in the clouds? She's in the credits, the opening credits, which, by the way, just side note here, I do kind of miss, like, part of me is glad that we kind of get to it a little bit quicker with the credits at the beginning of movies, but I do kind of miss they're like, buckle up, we're here for a film. You're right. Get your popcorn,
Well, in those days, I don't think unions had gotten studios like, you have to list all of us. So they were like, we're going to list the good people. And then this movie does have end credits, but I think they're fairly abbreviated as well.
They already listed everybody.
That's true. But I do love a good overture in a musical, and this does have that, essentially. She does live in a cloud. When I was a kid, I took that as just like, hey, I'm just making a pit stop here, checking my makeup. I don't know if she lives in the clouds, but maybe she does.
Well, yeah, I mean, she's just kind of sitting there. So
but the clouds don't look stable because she kept having to watch out for her carpet bag slipping through the cloud and her umbrella. She always had to keep readjusting them, but not her.
I did like that. I have another very important Mary Poppins question. It's tangentially related. Am I super attracted to Julie Andrews?
You are.
Okay.
Have you never seen another Julie Andrews movie? Is this Julie Andrews, or is this like a Legolas versus Orlando Bloom, where you're not as attracted to Orlando Bloom as you are to Legolas?
I don't think I've probably discussed this in the intro, but I don't think I've ever seen The Sound of Music all the way through either. I knew she's like, a pretty lady from the 60s or whatever, but I know her, I think, more as a like elegant dam, like.
She was built by beavers, and she stops up the river. You never seen like Victor Victoria or the problematic Thoroughly Modern Millie?
No.
Oh, that's a shame.
Yeah. You mentioned that. What's fucking guy's name? What's DVD's name?
In the movie, I guess, because you just said his names and initials. Bert.
Yeah. Is Bert? Bert's interesting. You said he's the original hustle culture guy, which I was like, this guy. Now, this is not timely even of this podcast, but I was like, this guy needs a TikTok channel. He's gonna clean up on the content machine.
Absolutely. He's busking.
He's busking.
Selling kites.
He's just tap dancing. He's just like, everyone look at me at all times is the vibe.
When your body is 85% leg, like Dick Van Dyke is you can't help but just dance. Like just walking down the street, he's fucking dancing. As long as there's not an ottoman in front of him, he's good. He can keep going as long as possible.
Just if you could clear any low profile furniture out of the way, he's going to be good. Little known fact, John Mayer's Your Body is a Wonderland is originally about Dick Van Dyke.
Yeah. Ugh. I just got an STD just thinking about that song. I got to put a shot of penicillin in my thigh just to ward off any of the old
Damon, I
crabbies.
love the shape you take when crawling across the pillowcase.
Oh, God. My penis just folded in on itself. Whatever the opposite of an erection is, I got it. I suddenly got an innie.
Have you read these books? Are you familiar with the books?
No, but I did do a crash course.
Okay.
As reading a Wikipedia article is referred to these days. In the books, there were 3 that are sort of tell the long story of the Poppins reign over the Banks children. And then there are several more that she wrote after the fact. She lived until I think the 2000s, like the early 2000s. But there are 3 original books, and then there's one which she said she couldn't keep coming back because she leaves at the end of each book, and then comes back the next book. And then after the 3rd book, it's just stories from her original 3 visits, that never made it into the other books.
Oh,
feels very Silmarillion. How much can I talk about the Lord of the Rings in this fucking Mary Poppins podcast?
P.L. Travers. I didn't know these were based on books, but most of, if you read anything about the making of this, other than the controversy, quote unquote, that you brought up at the beginning of our episode about the Oscars, the nomination and the win, the real drama behind this is the making of and getting the rights to it. It was a very, very long intellectual property dispute over getting the rights to it finally, and then P.L. Travers having editorial write-off, but then she didn't have final say, so Disney kind of fucked her on that because Walt Disney really was hands-on with this. Apparently it was their first live action movie, and they had they didn't have the cachet of Disney in the same way that they did later.
Right. It was his first foray, I think, into live action, and she was, let's say, a lovable grump. Yeah. And it seems because I even just reading about the illustrations for the books, she was very hands-on about, though very picky about what Mary Poppins should look like in the books. She didn't like initially when Julie Andrews was cast, saying, just like you did, that she's a total smoke show and you could bounce a quarter off her ass. Although I will say P.L. Travers, I think it is, I don't know if it's confirmed, but it is rumored that she might have been bisexual.
P.L. wrote, I want a honky tonk badonkadonk in the original description.
So she didn't like that, and then she didn't want any animation in it. She was picky about the songs, I believe. She seemed like a bag of fun. And there was a movie a few years ago, and I'm at the age where a few years ago means probably 10 or 15 years ago, where Emma Thompson plays P.L. Travers. Tom Hanks played Walton, Saving Mr. Banks.
Yeah.
And I remember being excited about that because I was already kind of aware of P.L. Travers' resistance to the actual movie. And I was excited about that movie. And it felt like it was kind of what if Walt Disney is a great guy and he saves the day in the end? Don't rely on Disney to make a actual in-depth Disney movie about Walt Disney. So it was
they cast Tom Hanks. They kind of told you. Yeah.
So that movie was not as informative as I was hoping for it to be, because in the end, it sort of makes her look like she really loved the movie in the end, but she notoriously hated the movie going forward and didn't let them make any sequels. And then when someone came up to her in the 90s to do a Broadway adaptation, she was like, get fucked. And they had to like sort of beg her and plead with her and tell her we wouldn't use any music from the movies and we wouldn't do this and we wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
To try and get her.
Then she died. They're like, okay, we'll use all of the music.
Bring the Disney songbook in, please.
I'm sure whoever controlled her estate was like, fuck, yeah, bring it on.
Whatever. Just here's the last 4 digits of my savings account. Let me know the routing number is also on there if you need it. Great, thanks.
You put this Swiss bank account, so no taxes. Yeah, it's really interesting to read, and it's all kind of this legend now of it's usually used like the movie, the Saving Mr. Banks, where it's like an example of Walt Disney's tenacity and business savvy rather than this woman wrote these books and wanted to control her own creative legacy.
Understandable, yeah.
And it's kind of like, I mean, obviously this movie is so beloved and that's where most people learned what Mary Poppins is or was, and so I can kind of understand both ends of that, but it's like, yeah, I mean, we don't have to lionize. I think Walt Disney has been lionized enough.
Yeah, I think we're good. Yeah, and I mean, this movie I think has far surpassed the actual cachet of the books themselves. I don't know. I don't think I've ever seen a copy of a Mary Poppins book.
Well, you're not a big reader, so
I can't read or write. What can I say? I may have seen a Mary Poppins book, but hell if I know what these squiggles and dots on the front mean.
Do you? I think we should talk about the main star of this because we kind of have glossed over, which is Dick Van Dyke's accent, which is like the main, God. As far as what takes up most of my mindset when watching this movie.
What takes up most of your patience? It is notoriously, I'm constantly ranked as the worst British accent in film history. British people love to cite it as the worst British accent in history. Mm-hmm. Dick Van Dyke often talks about how it's the worst accent in film history. He is being the charming man that he is, he often gets asked about it, and he often gives you a very charming, self-effacing answer about how bad his accent was. I think one of the more charming answers I saw when looking into it is that he had a vocal coach who was a Cockney guy, and his accent was worse than Dick Van Dyke's. Like, he's very charming. It is bad, though.
It's very bad.
It is very bad. But eventually, it may not have worked with you, but maybe just because I'm so used to the film, it eventually just wears on me, and I just maybe I compartmentalize him, like maybe he has a very specific speech impediment,
right?
That causes his jaw to just move around like a Muppet's head. Just
I think
it's a jolly holiday with you, Mary.
I think it's a lot of the same thing that happens to the movie at large, which is that it's just like too much.
I'm trying to think of a movie called At Large.
At Large, which is just that it's like everything gets a little bit too much time. It needs we need a little edit here and there, a little tighten that up, because it's like he's okay in these like quick bursts, but he's gotten like a vast majority of the screen time, and he's also just kind of like chewing the scenery and dancing around, which is fun. But it's like I actually felt like we did not get to hang out with Mary Poppins, the character, enough in this, because she brings sort of like this fun, unexpected, elegant magic vibe, and then he's kind of over there just yucking it up, and it's a fun contrast when in the correct proportions, but it becomes like all Cool Whip at some point where we're like, okay, all right.
Yeah, I can see that. I do truly love Mary Poppins as a character, and yeah, I think maybe Dick Van Dyke being the star that he was, maybe they really relied on him more than they needed to. Let's talk about Mary Poppins, because one of the things I think she gets short shrift in pop culture, she sort of gets lumped in with like Mr. Rogers as like almost a treacly character when people refer to her in pop culture. I feel like, oh, Mary Poppins, always singing, always chipper. And while she is singing a lot, one of the things I like about her is that she's not very chipper in the movie, or even described in the books. Yeah. She's kind of not stern so much, but sort of short. And she doesn't necessarily have a super playful personality. She gaslights the children several times, which I find she upbraids them. I find it very charming that she's like, "Close your mouth, Michael. We are not a codfish.
We are not a codfish."
And later when they refer to their adventures in the chalk drawing, they're like, "You won the derby, on the carousel horse," and she's like, "A respectable person like me in a horse race. Surely you must be joking," or something like that.
Yeah.
It's very charming, and she's very. I'm trying to think of what is the word I'm thinking of. Like, she's not put upon, and she's no nonsense, I guess. Yeah. Her personality is very no nonsense, while she constantly creates nonsense going on in this world. And that dichotomy, I think, makes her character much more interesting than this chipper, songbird that I feel like she gets sort of dumbed down to in pop culture.
She does one of my favorite things that's a good bit, even to this day, and that is talking to children like they're adults, just sort of like straight, not being like, "Now, Michael, what did you do today?" Instead, she's like, "Now, come on, let's go. We're getting out of here." And they're like, "What?" Like, they have no idea what's going on, and I really appreciate that. It's quite lovely. I think
she arrives, this is the first time I picked up on it, but when she arrives, the kids, she's carrying her umbrella and her carpet bag still. And the kids are just like sort of looking at her because they just watched her slide up the banister. And of course they watched her sail in on an umbrella.
Yeah.
After all these other nannies who were there to apply for the job were blown up the street, possibly killed. Don't worry about it.
Dead.
But she's sort of looking around at the playroom and her apartment that she'll get. And the kids are just peppering her with questions and just sort of answering very shortly with them. And they're like, "That's a strange bag." And she's like, "Carpet." And they say, "For carrying around carpets." And she's like, "No, made of." It's like, doesn't break stride, just looking around. Very charming.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I mean, getting just back into the Mary Poppins lore, it's very chaste in the movie, but her and Bert are DTF, right? I mean,
that it feels like they are.
He wrote a whole song about how wonderful it is to be. You don't do that. I love you dearly, Damon. I've never written a song about how nice it is to do a podcast.
You've never gotten a group of waitstaff penguins around to talk about how there are other guys you like, but I'm the best guy. You've never done that. I can tell you that. Never.
And I'm a songwriter, technically. Do you want to talk
might
about...
be too. We don't see him actually writing songs.
That's true.
But, I mean, he has many a job.
That's true. Do you want to talk about the penguin scene while we're...
Yes.
I think that's... I mean, I don't have anything more to say about them. They're obviously...
They're definitely fucking.
Romantic history.
Another thing that P.L. Travers did not like was that she didn't want any romance between Bert and Mary.
Apparently Disney was also like, we are going to keep this, which is like, yeah, it's a kid's movie. That's fine. Like,
just the raw sexual charisma of Dick Van Dyke and Julie Andrews cannot be contained.
Yeah.
Do what you will, P.L. Travers and Walt Disney. It ain't happening.
Look, it's happening in my imagination and you can't stop it. And also my fan fiction available for $19.95, self-published.
It is raunchy. It is. Don't worry. The parrot umbrella gets in on it at one point.
He's just berating her the whole time, but where did he... Was it only the end where the parrot comes in to play? What the fuck was that?
Chekhov's parrot umbrella. Yeah, I remember as a kid, like, seeing the parrot umbrella, and I'd never seen a parrot umbrella like that, and so I'm, like, immediately transfixed on it, and I'm knowing it's a Disney movie, I'm like, when's this fucking parrot gonna talk? I see him in her hand constantly, and then at the end, he's like, "Hello!" That was, by the way, the voice of the parrot is David Tomlinson, who also played the dad.
Oh.
Isn't that fun? Just a little fun tidbit.
Fun tidbit.
What were we talking about? I like these penguins. This is not their only movie, you know.
Tell me more.
Who Framed Roger Rabbit? In the Ink and Paint Club. Who's waiting on all the tables? Penguins drawn in exactly this style.
Okay.
Which would mean that was their job before they got famous, because Mary Poppins made in 1964. Roger Rabbit is set in 1948. So they apparently were waiters, like many actors. They were waiters before they broke big in
I'm just doing this to make ends meet. I'm an actor.
Sure, buddy. Get me a scotch on the rocks. They are very cute. I love... They have the They have little bow ties, and even though they look exactly the same, there's just that one who gets the kiss out of Mary, and then he's like, he's so excited.
Like, sorry,
and the other ones are
sorry,
sort of
guys.
slapping. And the one that has like the little belly, and then the manager penguin sort of slaps it, and he reshuffles his body shape so that it's in his chest rather than in his belly. Whoa. I like those penguins. I also liked this isn't my favorite era of Disney animation. They're sort of getting into the Xerox style where things get kind of, the line work gets really scratchy. But I didn't mind it in Mary Poppins, since it's just little bits of it here and there. I thought also, 60s special effects notwithstanding, they blend into that world remarkably
sodium
well.
vapor. Did you read about the
sodium vapor? Do you want to tell me
vapor?
about sodium vapor, please?
No, because I don't understand it. I read it twice and just being like, what? Because something in the process of how and it's not a traditional green screen, blue screen process. There's some other step that I don't understand.
And from what I saw, it's like there's sodium vapor, and that gives a yellow hue to the background. So I guess I was mistakenly saying that this movie invented blue screen. You corrected me by looking it up. Which I love. Just let me have this weird thing I made up, says America. And so, but it gives it a yellow hue in the background. And I think the trick was because Mary Poppins during these scenes has a hat which is tied under her neck with like a little bit of tulle. And tulle is, transparent. And if you did blue screen at the time, you wouldn't be able to, that wouldn't work. There would be a problem with the transparent effect on the tulle. But apparently the sodium vapor technique allowed them to do like transparent, the background could appear through the tulle in her hat.
Yeah.
I'm not a scientist. I'm not a film scientist.
It's good. It looks like he's dancing with penguins. And the one thing I didn't buy is that he could just pull down his pants and then all of a sudden he looks like a penguin. Come on, those are different pants. We all know those are different pants.
As a kid, that completely worked on me. And I was like, okay, I don't know why that would work on me. It's so obviously different pants. But I was a kid, I was like, that seems so simple. You just pull down your pants a little, and all of a sudden you have an 18-inch crotch in your pants and you can dance around like a penguin. Oh, but when when he's doing a little dance and he kicks, and one of the penguins like will sort of dive under is like, oh my God.
What you love that scene. I think
absolutely.
I like it a lot. I think that is one of my favorite parts of the movie.
The whole animated part, or just the waiter penguins?
Just the penguins dance sequence.
Really? Because while I was watching it and enjoying it, obviously, I was thinking this feels like a scene that DJ's gonna say goes on far too long.
Oh yeah, that was the second half of my statement.
Oh, okay.
However, like all of the movie, it needed to be cut by a third.
This movie is 2 hours and 20 minutes long.
A thing that neither of us actually recognize, which that's on us. Because we were both watching it right before we were supposed to record the first time. And we were both like, hey, guess what?
It's 2 hours and 20 minutes long.
I
knew it was kind of long in my memory, but I've seen it so many times that like it plays out in 20 minutes in my head. But it is a long... that's like saying like, kids, we can watch either we have time to watch Mary Poppins or we have time to watch The Departed. Which one do you want to watch?
You want to watch Mary Poppins or do you want to watch Saving Private Ryan? I don't know how long Saving Private Ryan is, but
I imagine it's somewhere around 2 hours and 20 minutes. That is insane for a kid's movie.
I think, movies were longer at this time, right? Because I remember always growing up that it was like movies were 2 hours. They just were 2 hours. And then at some point it was like, no, some movies are 2 hours. Some are 20, like 90 minutes is kind of like, It's got to be 90 minutes if it's a movie. It's 170 minutes. By the way, Saving Private Ryan. So
there you go.
Even more.
I always had that impression as well as a kid that old movies are long. But I think I just had, because I also read that statistically movies are getting longer now. They're longer than they've ever been. And I think it's just that movies, like epic movies that tend to like last in the cultural imagination, just tended to be long. Like Gone with the Wind is 3 hours long. The Ten Commandments is 3 hours long. But, legally, you only have to be 75 minutes long to be considered a feature-length film. And I think a lot of Disney movies, especially like the 1950s Disney movies, are like around 75, 80 minutes long.
74 minutes? Straight to jail.
Get fucked. You are going to go in front of a firing squad. I want to say something about the animated parts.
Yeah.
One, me and my brother both like to say "View Halloo" from the fox hunting part. It's just nonsense.
Is that a thing?
That's what you say when you see the fucking fox in fox hunting.
Got it.
I also like the horses, the horse animation, the actual design of the horses. They're like super fat and have really thin legs, so they look very striking. I enjoyed that. I also love that they saved the fox, who's Irish for some reason. I like that a lot. I can't help but like the animated parts of this movie. And in Mary Poppins Returns, I think I may have already said this in the intro, but they sort of do a very similar style of animation for the animated parts of that movie, so it matches closer rather than doing a more modern style, or God save us, a CGI style.
Is this the same? What's the movie? This is so stupid. What's the movie with Merlin?
No, not the Sorcerer's Apprentice.
Was it the Sword in the Stone?
Called? Sword in the Stone.
Sword in the Stone. I feel like this reminded me of that, and maybe it's the same era. This is very similar to that.
101 Dalmatians, Aristocats, the Sword in the Stone. They started experimenting a little bit with like Xeroxing animation, so it created this sort of scratchy look of the line work. That is very distinct in this era.
It's very different than like the early, like the Snow White and the Cinderella. That it's obviously still animated. There's obviously a lot of overlap in style, but it's something different, and I like it. I think it is a little bit like rougher around the edges. Like
it has a very distinct look, and it reminds me very much of like 60s, 70s Disney era stuff. Yeah,
it's not just the kind of grittiness that you were talking about. There's also like the character designs. They're all kind of like a little dumpier. Like everything's a little bit like a little bit more. I don't know. It all feels a little like more informal. Like the characters are just a little bit. Everything always has like this cutesiness to it in both senses. But I don't know. It's like the it's like their slacker era.
I think especially because they didn't have to be like fully fleshed out characters. They could have a lot more fun with all the animated characters they encounter.
Yeah.
So like all the fox hunting troop or whatever you'd call them, the guy running the carousel, the Pearlies that are playing during supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. They're all like very unique because they're probably like, just have fun with the character design. They don't have to they don't have to like have an arc. They just need to look fun for this one scene.
Did you know that supercalifragilisticexpialidocious was a word not invented by this movie?
Tell me everything right now, immediately.
Apparently it existed in like literature to some degree before the was it in the book even, or was it invented?
I'm not sure.
I'm not sure either. I don't think it was in the books. I might be misremembering this part.
I did watch the trailer for Saving Mr. Banks, and they had an allusion to her not liking made-up words, and it showed Jason Schwartzman, who plays one of the Sherman brothers, the composers. He slides. You can see him slide the sheet music for Supercalifragilistic behind other sheets, so she won't see that. But yeah, I don't know if that's just a joke for the film or if that was true. If they wrote that.
I don't think it was in the book, but also I feel like I recognize that this comes from this movie, but apparently it was absolutely popularized by this movie. As far as, and it's not like it became a regular word in the lexicon.
Does it have a meaning, or is it just a word to be long for longness' sake?
I think it was that. It was like the same thing where it's like, it's a word that's created to be a ridiculous word. Not like pneumona ultramicroscopic silicovolcanoconiosis, which actually means black lung. So, which, by the way, Bert and now the children also have. So
they're going to learn some more words when they're in the children's ward.
It's actually longer than supercalifragilistic. So congratulations.
Can we talk about some of maybe the ancillary characters? Do you want to talk about? I figured you would. I saw that glint in your eyes. First off, let's talk about Katie Nana, because I only have one fun fact about her.
Who's that?
That's the nanny who quits at the beginning of the film.
Okay. She
You
wants
know
to be
what?
she wants to be paid despite lusing the children. So fuck
True.
off.
Well, you can get paid and then sued
Yeah.
for losing my fucking children. Now that is Elsa Lancaster.
Okay.
She's famous to me because she played Miss Marbles in Murder by Death. But she has a more famous role.
No idea.
It's
Large
in
Marge.
horror movies, 1930s horror. Imagine hair and white wraps and screaming.
Mummy? Is she the
Imagine
mom
tall
Psycho?
hair.
Bride of Frankenstein?
She is the Bride of Frankenstein. That is her.
I have not seen the Bride of Frankenstein.
Well, you've
sorry.
probably seen her picture, right?
Yeah.
That's her.
Not in
That's
any
all I
way
got.
recognize the actress that played.
Well, it took me a while. I think it was only until the invention of IMDb as a kid where I was like, as a 20-year-old, where I was like, now what now?
I'm sorry, what? I did actually read Frankenstein, by the way, when I was a young man, and it's a good book. Good job. Good job, Mary Shelley.
Hot take alert.
These children are not like they're just kind of
these children are not attractive.
no atrocious is the word I was
okay.
going to say, but I was like, that's just from supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. Why that word is stuck in my head. But they're like kind of maybe a little rambunctious, I guess. But they don't really show that because when we see them, they're sort of chastened.
Yeah,
they're being yelled at by their father,
humiliated.
and they're like, but like we don't actually see them being kind of crazy. that crazy, which is weird that they've chased so many nannies away. We don't really see any evidence of them being especially bad kids. We see that their parents are not around because they're too busy putting a roof over their heads and trying to get women the right to vote. These
what
fucking
a bunch
losers.
of dicks. Yeah, that is a good point. I think that maybe the movie could have like at least established like. Are they bad or, well, I mean, they imply that they are bad from their letter requested, with their list of demands for a nanny. They allude to maybe some things they've pulled on previous nannies, putting pepper in their tea, toads in your bed. What was some other things? Hide your spectacles so you can't see. But also they allude to the fact that the nannies were maybe drunk, which never smell of barley water is one of the lines in their songs.
And Michael says, that's the part I put in.
These kids, I don't know what it is about them, but every time they were on screen, I immediately got hot eyes. They look like children.
They look so tired.
They look
like
so exhausted. They look like, are you actually from Victorian England? Have you been working in like the Triangle Shirt Factory? What is going on here? They look so.
I'm from the future. This does not go well for you.
Especially Jane. She just looks so forlorn. They're both cute-looking kids, but they look world weary almost.
When Michael tries to give back his money after the day, that was my favorite part. It was like, you're gonna be a good kid. He's a good kid. He's doing his best. He needs a nap, though. He needs a nap.
Oh, he needs a nap and a good toothbrushing.
Well, he's English.
They are very cute kids. I think you're right that maybe it's a little kind of. I would have rather seen like how bad are they? But it sounds like the nannies might be frustrated with their playfulness more than anything. I think
being
maybe
children.
to play into the theme, like maybe the fact like Katie and Anna isn't angry at them because they like, annoyed, like they did anything to her, but that they ran off with their kite and got lost in the park because it dragged them all over Hyde Park or whatever. Wait, is Hyde Park in London or is that in New York?
I think that's London.
Okay,
and then
good.
That's what
I just don't want anyone who's about to take a trip to London to listen to this and then get so fucking lost looking for Hyde Park.
They keep just waiting. Boy, you're waiting for directions a lot from our podcast. We don't give them out. We're very withholding with our directions. I like that the constable says it's really more the kite that got lost, if anything.
So we also have Glynis Johns, who plays Mrs. Banks.
I found her very charming. I found Winifred very charming.
Overwhelmingly charming.
Yeah.
She's very funny. I mean, she comes in singing the song I talked about in the intro, Sister Suffragette, which is this march style song, immediately like hooks you in. And she immediately, the maid and the cook, who the other staff in the house, immediately start marching with her. And it's very, very winning. I thought she was also an interesting character because Mr. Banks comes home and she immediately like sort of changes and she becomes very inward.
Everyone finds their post in the house.
Right?
Yeah.
Everyone's scared of Mr. Banks. And at first I was like, well, this is kind of an interesting development. I was curious. I was thinking like, oh, is she a more demure character than I'm remembering? But then, you know, in that initial scene, she's like, oh, I'll just muck it up if I try and find the nanny. You're so smart. I'd love for you to take this on, Mr. Banks. And it's very deferring. And I was like, okay. But then when the kids come with their list of what they want in a nanny, she's sort of silencing Mr. Banks, like, shh, let them finish, let them talk.
Yeah.
So she's very loving to the kids. And I think she sort of realizes how she can, I don't want to say manipulate, but how she can sort of get a word in edgewise in this house, which might be very true to a Victorian household at this time of like, I can't tell him directly, but I can sort of move his point of view and direct him without him knowing, which is also kind of what Mary Poppins also does to Mr. Banks. Sort of, once again, gaslights him into thinking things that were her idea is actually his idea. And so he's all in because he is a toxic man. Yeah. But yes, I love Glynis Johns in this. Every time she was on screen, I was always charmed. She has like a beautiful voice. She has a very distinct voice. A little bit raspy, almost a little bit childlike. It's very charming. You know, Send in the Clowns was written for her by Stephen Sondheim.
How about that?
I learned that from Adam, who was on our Dick Tracy show, telling us about Stephen Sondheim.
Our Sondheim expert.
Resident Sondheim expert.
He's a Heim head from the early days. I liked her a lot. And also, I think, she's probably the most interesting non-magical character that we have because
I think the suffrage movement has its own special kind of magic, Deej.
Wow. Really made me think just then. I like that because the whole premise is, you know, they're not giving enough attention to their kids. And we actually see her be fairly kind of, doting is not the word I'd use, but like, you know, like you said with the conversation with Mr. Banks, she's like, no, let's listen to them. Let's hear them out. What do you have to say? But, you know, we don't see her spending a lot of time with him. And it's because she's out, you know, fighting for the cause one way or another. Right. And so that makes her, you know, kind of complicated because she's like got this sort of righteous purpose, but then she's kind of neglecting her household, especially in this time where it's like, no, this is the mother's job is to be here and like take care of the children. But they have also got like a house full of staff. Yeah. Which is kind of
including
interesting.
A fucking nanny who just apparently lets them just get pulled away by the east wind in the park.
Yeah. But yeah, I found her very interesting. Mr. Banks I want to touch on as well. You know, it's very easy to see him as the antagonist, but he obviously turns around at the end and Ebenezer Scrooge style. But I like that you can sort of see cracks in his, you know, in the surface as it goes along, as he's kind of very confused by Mary Poppins more than anything else. But also like, I don't know, there's a couple moments when he's being, when there's the run on the bank and then has his moment where he's being fired. He's brought in at 9 p.m. Jeez. To the bank.
If you adjust that for inflation, that's like 2 a.m.
It's like 2 a.m. But he tries to crack a joke, which I really liked, where so the banker, also played by Dick Van Dyke, is like the super old head of the bank is like, you know,
Mr. Burns-esque.
Yes, he's explaining the Boston Tea Party, and he's like, you know what happened, and what happened to the tea when they dumped it in the harbor, and he's like, made the tea unsuitable for drinking, even for Americans. And then he's like flop sweating. Like,
Right,
it's very kind of charming.
Do some crowd work.
Yeah. So we don't get a lot of depth from Mr. Banks, and he's kind of just more of a foil. But I thought that was pretty interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we don't get necessarily a lot of depth, but I do think he is very effective for me. Yeah. he wants everything to be very orderly, so he's a good foil to Mary Poppins, who is very whimsical and nonsensical and revels in a little bit of chaos. He also, is a sexist. Like, he comes in singing like, oh, it's the age of men. Like, I'm like, you're really laying this on really thick. And I mean, if you listen to the lyrics of this song, he gets in the door at 6:01. And at 6:02, his children who have been scrubbed and tubbed and adequately fed, he pats them on the head and sends them off to bed. Like, he spends literally no time with his children.
Yeah, 1 minute.
And they're so desperate for his attention. It's so heartbreaking for me. And when he has that song at the end, where he half sings everything, I mean, that's very much David Tomlinson's singing style. Is like, what if I sing most of it and then I speak the last line? I have invented rap. But he has a song where Bert, who had been sweeping their chimney and also almost losing his children, a common theme for everyone in this story. He sings to Bert about how, this Poppins woman has come into his house and disrupted all the order. And then Bert has this riposte where he's sort of sarcastically replying. He's like, oh yeah, this Mary Poppins who raises your children and teaches them to have, wild imaginations and goes on adventures while you can work all day and miss their entire childhood. Yeah, it's outrageous that she tricked you into spending time with them. Even my voice cracked just then. I love his last bit in this movie, his Ebenezer Scrooge moment. I also love it when it happens to Ebenezer Scrooge. I am a sucker for that shit. I'm a sucker for George Bailey running down the street, screaming, "Oh, you old savings and loan!" And I am a sucker for Mr. Banks' turn at the end of this movie. Really, like, heartbreakingly shot, almost. He's walking through the empty London streets, all matte paintings from what I can gather. Yes. And he's just completely alone. He knows exactly what's coming to him. And he walks up to the bank, and he's escorted in by two guards who are dressed like Mr. Monopoly, which I love. Can we get back to that? Where the guards are wearing top hats and
coming back.
Gray coats?
All cyclical.
And then he's brought into like the board of directors room, which is completely in shadow except one spotlight on the board of directors table. And the son of Dick Van Dyke's Mr. Dawes Sr., then Mr. Dawes Jr. comes up, rips up his carnation, punches a hole through his derby, and then breaks his umbrella so it's inside out, which I love.
The one banker was like, "Oh, no, that's too far."
No,
like, don't
not that. I love it. I'm like, an exit interview is a lot less work, I feel like, than this. And then he sort of has his Ebenezer Scrooge moment where he looks at the tuppence that Michael gave him and realizes, isn't it more fun to just be silly and have a childhood? And then he tells him the wooden leg named Smith joke and starts laughing. And then Mr. Dawes finally gets it and starts floating to the ceiling just like Ed Wynn did.
Yeah.
It gets me. It gets me here. It gets me here. It gets me right here.
Just so the listeners know, he pointed to his balls 3 times, which was weird.
Well, I have 3 of them, so I like to account for each ball.
All 3 of them. Speaking of both things that you mentioned, I want to just quickly mention Ed Wynn as the uncle, because this is the first time I think I've ever seen Ed Wynn. I am aware of his shtick mostly through other people doing his shtick. I mean, I guess I've seen Alice in Wonderland at some point, so I've heard his voice, and also,
my stars,
Mad Hatter kind of looks like him in real life. And then I've heard, Alan Tudyk's Ed Wynn as King Candy and in Wreck-It Ralph.
Have I told you about? There was an article written in HuffPost when the original Wreck-It Ralph came out. And this guy was complaining that King Candy was a homophobic caricature. And my old man brain was like, get fucking real. It's a caricature of Ed Wynn, a heterosexual man. Work out your own baggage, Michelangelo Signorelli.
Oh my. I do
oh my
like
stars.
I like him a lot. That was very charming.
All those jokes are also solid. I know a man with a wooden leg named Smith. Good.
That's a good
the
joke.
man who offers to replace the woman's cat, and she asks him, well, okay, that's fine, but how good are you at catching mice? Solid. These are solid jokes.
It's decent. Yeah. Give me a tight 5 of those and I'll sample it. I also really liked the bankers dance that they do. It's like just a bunch of like harumph, like rhythmic nods. That was very charming.
How did you like, since you were already complaining that we have too much Dick Van Dyke in this movie, how did you like your second helping of Dick Van Dyke as Sir or Mr. Dawes Sr.?
Honestly, I think it was a lot better than Bert. Partially because it's, less, but he does this little bit where when we first see him, he's coming down off of a step and he's very gingerly trying to and I read that in the trivia, which again, asterisk, I don't know if this is 100% true,
Take
but
it with a grain of salt.
That they saw him doing a similar bit just for fun, with the crew. And so they actually made it part of the scene just because they were like, you have to do this because it's ridiculous.
I read that the kids did not know that was Dick Van Dyke and just saw an old man coming down the stairs and they were like, what the fuck?
I do he's pretty funny as the old man. He I like the group of bankers.
I do like a choreographed group of men who don't dance, and this is the closest we'll get to dancing, is sort of calmly do-si-doing with each other and nodding curtly at each other, while Dick Van Dyke just sort of stamps his cane to the beat.
Yeah.
I talked about that I suffer from wig blindness, and so I don't.
This is actually.
I don't feel comfortable telling you how long it took me to realize that was also Dick Van Dyke.
Are you serious?
Yeah. It took me. Now it didn't take me into adulthood, but I would say late teens before I realized that was also Dick Van Dyke.
I thought you meant this watching. I was what?
No. Okay. Hour 3 rolled by, and I was like, you know what I'm starting to think?
You know what? This main banker guy, he's not above board.
Something.
Before we get away from the bankers, I just want to point out my favorite part, which is that when Dawes Sr. is... do you know that's where the band Dawes comes from? Anyway, he's floating because he's laughing so much. Dawes Jr. is pulling him and screaming at the top of his lung, "Daddy, come back!"
Well, but Tyler really liked the part where David Tomlinson has his Ebenezer Scrooge moment and he's laughing and he can't stop laughing and he sort of forces into Dawes Sr.'s hand the tuppence from Michael and he's like, if you want it so bad, here it is. And he says, if there's, I don't believe that you exist or something to that effect. And Dawes Jr. sort of throws his body in front of his father and goes, "Don't you strike my daddy." Absolutely deranged.
It reminds me of I think this is where Will Forte got his vibe, because it's a very chaotic, simpering, very funny energy that this guy brings, and I really liked it.
And it really comes out just in this scene, when we see him earlier at the bank. He's just he does talk like this, but he's not insane. In this scene, he comes off as very insane, but then he does hire back Mr. Banks at the end of the movie because they're both flying kites. And Mr. Dawes died. Mr. Dawes Sr. died.
He laughed himself
died from laughing, much like the hyenas and Roger Rabbit.
Played by Arthur Mallet, just so we can give him his props.
Oh, yeah.
Living? Hold on. Well, we're just checking the facts here.
Let me just get the dates on that.
He is dead. He
died shortly after this movie was made.
He died just now because he was forgotten. The last person alive forgot him.
Oh, that's the rule. It's the Freddy Krueger rule.
Old English actors and nightmare spirits. Yeah. And then finally, Winifred gives up the women's suffrage movement, and so we all live happily after.
This is the moment that always rubs me the wrong way. Because she's not the focal point as much as Mr. Banks is.
Yeah.
And at the end, Mr. Banks repairs their kite, and, they're about to go out and fly it, and Mrs. Banks is like, well, any proper kite deserves a proper tail, and she grabs one of her votes for women's sashes. In my mind, just so that I don't get furious, I have decided, like, we saw her have a bunch of sashes when she arrived at the house in her first scene, so she just grabbed one because she realized the kite doesn't have a tail. It is not a metaphor that Walt Disney is saying, maybe we should give up on women's suffrage, which is kind of what it feels like a little. I mean, not to read too much into it, but it is a little bit like, we don't have to worry about that, do we, Mrs. Banks? I'm like, yeah, she has a noble cause that she is fighting for, that hopefully, eventually, once it's achieved, she can maybe take more of a back seat, and focus on her
kids. If she wants to.
If she wants to. But Miss Pankhurst has been clapped in irons again. And, we have to fight for her freedom, jag.
Do you think it's fine to say, hey, I'm going to spend less time doing something so I can spend time with my children, but also, like, don't act like it's some sort of stupid cause that she's dedicated her life to.
I don't think it's like an 8-hour thing. She just has to go to events once in a while.
Yeah.
I do want to say, like, in this same vein, one of the things that strikes me in my more recent viewings of this movie is, with that caveat to the kite tail moment, I feel like this is a surprisingly, like, pro-women movie. All the women in this movie, I feel like, have fun, like, personalities. Glynis Johns and Mary Poppins, are, like, luminescent in this movie. Mary Poppins is always in complete control of the situation. And the men in this movie are all kind of, like, on the spectrum from lovable oaf in Bert to toxic moron with Mr. Banks.
Yeah.
And the movie is sort of about saying to men, hey, you also need to be an active part of your children's lives. You can't just put a roof over their heads and then send them to bed and then, have an uninterrupted life. These are your children too, and you should be playing with them and engaging with them on their level and having fun adventures with them. And I think it's his initial song, I feel like, that when he comes in and sings about how he likes everything just so, is completely rebutted by the entirety of the movie. I think looking at it from that perspective, I absolutely love this movie. On top of which, it's also a very pro-working class movie in that Mary, all of her relationships outside of the house are with working class people. It doesn't seem to have high regard for bankers or banks in that regard. Yeah. It seems to think that they're conniving bastards who are more interested. I mean, when you listen to their song, especially now with, 60 years hence, they're just talking about British colonialism. The bank is talking about, if you give us your tuppence in a savings account, we can spend it on, hurting all the black and brown people in the British Empire. Won't that be nice? I don't know if that was intentional in the song, but I mean, it certainly reads that way now. And I'd rather Michael spend it to feed some birds over at St. Paul's Cathedral.
Which they apparently ban now because there's too much shitting on the cathedral steps.
I mean, that's true. I mean, I just have bird feeders in my backyard. I'm like, guys, this is literally where you eat.
Yeah.
Why are you shitting all over this
This is literally the cup in which you eat. I just, now that you mention that, now I hate this.
I hate women. Mr. Banks was right, and I'm going to start a podcast talking about how Mr. Banks was absolutely right.
Print a t-shirt, Mr. Banks was right. If you guys want to get on that, we will gladly plug it on the show. What do you think about Admiral Boom? How does he fly? How does he fit into this?
I always forget about
Does he
Admiral
live
Boom, and he's
in their building?
He's introduced like instantly. He's on their block. He's like next door to them.
Next door. Okay.
He the only way I can interpret it is that he is a former sea captain in the British Royal Navy who has PTSD, possibly dementia, doesn't know where he is. And he has one of his first mate is just like,
just
you know what?
Just an enabling friend.
I'm just going to keep things running smoothly, clean his windows with a mop like everyone does, and, keep the time. He's a very funny character. It does set the mood for the movie in that he's introduced before anyone else.
Yeah.
When Bert is busking and he tells the audience, hey, I'm going to go take you down to 17 Cherry Tree Lane. We pass by Admiral Boone's house and he keeps the time. He shoots a cannon into a major metropolitan area to keep the time. They say England gets its time from Greenwich and Greenwich gets its time from Admiral Boone. He is very silly. But the weird thing is that there's already silliness in the Banks' life. It's already this sort of chaotic place. But I found him really charming, even though it maybe sort of undercuts the themes of the movie. But it's so deranged.
It doesn't
He
matter.
literally has a ship's rigging on top of his house.
Yeah.
And don't worry, I know what you're thinking. And yes, he does return for Mary Poppins Returns. Played by
good.
David Warner.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. I don't know who that is. My favorite part is
Titanic, Tron, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, David Warner.
Oh, David Warner as
David Warner.
David Warner, The Secret of the Ooze.
Yes, of course.
Okay.
He is the secret.
Pepperoni
Now I'm imagining
Heaven.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles like The Fifth Element, where they realized that David Warner was the secret of the ooze all along.
He says, Pepperoni Heaven. My favorite
A storied career.
Admiral Boone moment is, so we didn't really talk about the chimney sequence. We talked about it a little bit. There's a very extensive second dancing sequence that led by Bert and his many chimney sweep friends. And they start again, like the penguin dancing sequence. It starts very impressive. And then after a while, I'm like, all right, I have deleted social media off my phone, but I need to do something else with my time.
I've got a puzzle I'm putting together. If you could wrap this up, Mr. Van Dyke.
But then Admiral Boone is looking through his telescope to see, and he goes, "We're being attacked by Hottentots."
And he starts firing upon them. Now, DJ, I have some bad news.
What?
I knew what you were about to quote, and I let you do it anyway. But then I looked up the word Hottentots.
Yeah.
Would you like to put up a Notes app apology, sir?
Oh, no. What is it?
It's a term that the British Empire used for Black South Africans.
Oh, fuck.
And is now considered offensive.
Fuck. It's such a...
It is such an old-timey word, but the problem with those old-timey words...
Yeah, I should have known.
Sometimes they're old-timey because we stopped using them for a reason.
Yeah. This is... let's go ahead and kick it into the problematic corner for just a second. Give me
let's
give me a half
there.
theme song.
Watch out now, y'all. Damon's
Double
got
speed.
a problem.
Okay, so obviously I stepped right into that one.
Throwing that word we just learned around.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I should have known, and I'm sorry. I apologize to anyone that I offended, and I have no excuse because Google's right here.
The sad thing is, I also know you have a savings account, which I have found out it means that you support tea plantations and railroads through Africa. So you've got a lot to apologize for, sir.
Yeah, I do exist within the system.
Oh, that's interesting. So you have a savings account. That's interesting.
Interesting. Really, the only things that I noticed, besides not realizing that was offensive, is that they do refer to Red Indians at some point when he's talking about colonizing, I think. And then he also, a joke that I shouldn't think is funny. Someone mentions at some point, or the housemaid mentions that there's a spot on the bridge that's popular with jumpers.
See, now that line got a full laugh out loud for me.
Yeah, we're
when
bad
they couldn't
people.
find the father, and she's
We are
like,
bad
"Oh,
people."
maybe he's committed suicide." Here's a
Yeah.
good bridge where I've heard a lot of
Yeah.
people love it.
We're
That
we're
woman,
not
by
nice
the way,
people.
that's Hermione. Hold on. Hermione
Danger.
Baddeley, who I also know from
Okay.
the Alastair Sim version of, we've been referencing him a lot,
Mr. Crowley.
Ebenezer Scrooge. Scrooge.
Oh, okay.
She plays Mrs. Cratchit in that, but she is a charm bomb also in this
Oh.
movie. She plays the maid, and she has a deep Cockney accent. I'm going to guess more accurate than Dick Van Dyke's.
Probably.
What does she say that I wrote actually down while dropping all the Y's and the who gets stuck with the kids with no nanny in the house? Me,
In the house.
that's who. She says it later when someone's like, "Can you take the kids up to bed?" She's like,
No.
me, that's who." And then later she has to dismiss all the other nannies who were blown away by the wind and presumably killed. She sees a dog on the porch and she goes, "The position has been filled." It's one of my favorite lines from this movie. Made me laugh when I was a kid.
I
I
like
thought
that.
it was very funny because the dog's not applying for a job, dude.
No, he's already got a job.
His name's Andrew.
Yeah. I love dogs. I think I've said this. I think this made this clear in my history. I love dogs with normal names or food names. Those are the two acceptable dog names. Dogs with David or like Jonathan or something. I love that.
And what's a food name?
Food name would be like macaroni.
Okay.
Corn dog. That's
I also
that's
like
name
the
of cat
regular
in our
human
world,
name.
but yeah.
I like the regular human name. But I like it when they have Mr. and then a distinguishing characteristic that all
Okay.
that animal has. So Mr. Whiskers will get me every
That's
time.
good.
Like, yeah, cats have whiskers. That's the most identifying feature of your cat is that he has whiskers.
Mr. Four Paws.
Old
Unfortunately-
Mr. Vertebrate.
Unfortunately, he has 3 paws, so
Ooh,
bet
it's
you
an
feel bad
ironic
now.
name.
Yeah. We're still in the problematic corner. Do you have anything else to add? I thought there would be more, honestly, given the era.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, yeah, the mention of the term Red Indians is problematic, but also seems like what Mr. Banks probably would say at the time.
Yeah, it's era appropriate.
Ooh. Well, this isn't a problem. This is actually an anti-problematic corner, so I won't say it.
Okay.
I don't have any problems with this movie. This movie is absolutely perfect and upstanding. And as long as we just take the vote away from women,
Yeah.
no problems here.
All right, let's get out of the corner.
Yeah, get out of here.
I can't believe I walked right into that.
I know, and I was just sitting, knowing you were walking into it. I had dug a hole in the forest and then covered it up with a mesh of
Yeah.
leaves. And I was like, he's going to walk right into that.
It totally makes sense for his character that he would say something like that and that it would be like racist and that you'd be like, this guy. And also it's a funny word. And also now, for me, it sounded like, oh, we're being attacked by jib jabs,
Yeah.
and then you're like, yeah, jib jabs is what we used to call people from the northeast of Eurasia. And I'm like, fuck.
Damn it.
But,
Why do we have to have such jocular sounding racial slurs?
I know we need to find some better things to say, some things that sound like that word, but that aren't problematic. So if you guys could help me.
If only there was some way. I was reminded of while we were in the problematic corner, I was reminded of something very unproblematic, which is my favorite line from Sister Suffragette. Though we adore men individually, we agree that as a group, they're rather stupid.
Fair.
And she's pulling in the maid and the chef while she's singing. I just love that whole sequence
Yeah.
entirely.
Speaking of words that I'd like to, that I think it's safe to pull into my vocabulary. I want to use stravaging for like lollygagging. It's like,
Oh, right. Was that when Michael was walking
Yeah.
on the curb, one leg in
Yeah.
the street, one leg on the sidewalk? No stravaging.
no stravaging.
I know we haven't talked about her all that much, but I just absolutely love Julie Andrews as a person, and I love Mary Poppins as this.
Dame Julie Andrews.
You're absolutely right, and I apologize to the Dame community. I
You're
just
even
love
one
her
of
in this
them,
role.
technically. Dames.
All right, I'm 2 of them at least.
Do you want to go to the verdict?
Yes, I do.
All right. We're gonna go on a carousel horse that comes off of the carousel. And now
can we also speak to like when it spins around and Dick Van Dyke with his 85% leg body, is sort of wrapped around it, one leg around the pole. They also animated a fox around him so that he like slides down. Just absolutely great. He's a good physical comedian.
He does fall.
All right. I think it's pretty obvious that I still cherish this movie. Racial slurs that I just learned about aside.
Yeah, goddamn.
Not a good. Don't pull that quote, please. Yeah. This is a very charming movie. Yes, it is a little long, which surprises me to no end. 2 hours and 20 minutes. That's insane. Can you imagine trying to get an iPad kid to sit down and watch this fucking movie for 2.5 hours? What are you, insane? And by the way, mine was on DVD. I had 2005 trailers in front of this movie. Did you know that Fox and the Hound is coming to DVD in spring 2005?
I'm a hound dog. Ow.
Ow, ow, ow. Speaking of another Hot Eyes movie, I can't imagine me trying to watch that.
That's like 20 Bluey episodes.
That's insane. But yes, this is a winning movie. I love this movie. It's charming beyond belief. Julie Andrews is a charm bomb. David Tomlinson's Ebenezer Scrooge turnaround, great. Glynis Johns, wonderful. Hermione Baddeley, yes, I like her too. That's Sue. Admiral Boone, racist, but
Damn it. Not so harmless now.
I know. But he keeps time. He made the trains run on time, guys. Yeah, this Your Inner Child is Not an Idiot. This is a great movie.
Do you have any nominees?
Oh, of course. I'm going to give the Catherine O'Hara Award to Glynis Johns.
Seconded. Unexpected MVP.
Sally Field, Best Scene Award.
I want to say...
Do you want to do there's the Penguin Waiters, which you seem to love.
Penguin Waiters.
But also just her arrival in the house and pulling shit out of her giant carpet bag and being so like curt with the children and being magical while also gaslighting them. I can't get enough of it.
I did also like I don't know if it's just me, but I like the banker scene. The nodding, the rhythmic nodding.
Hold on. COH.
I mean, as far as like technical things, like the chimney sweep dance was very impressive. I think just technologically, the penguin dance is more impressive. But
penguin? You want to do penguin?
Yeah, let's do it.
I did gush on it like a lunatic.
Okay, stop.
Don't
stop. This is a children's movie.
Stop pointing to your balls and stop saying gush.
Yeah, so we needed if we could have approached this with a sharper knife in the editing room, I would have appreciated it. It would be a no doubter for me. But given the run length, it's still very good. Your Inner Child's Not an Idiot. This is pretty good. I don't know if I'll be rushing to watch it again, but I think if this was beloved for you, you're going to come back and you're going to still enjoy it. And you're going to maybe not call people the H word. Now I do want to start using the term the H word, and watching just consternation on people's faces. That was like the first time I learned what swarthy meant. I just thought it meant like swashbuckling,
No.
and then I looked up and I was like, fuck.
Mm-hmm.
And
as a Greek, I think I can say swarthy. I think I'm allowed to say swarthy.
You've reclaimed it?
Yeah.
Yes.
I come from a long line of swarths.
I think there's a line where it's like if something's used enough, you can kind of be like, okay, yeah, but then there's some things that are like basically just about making fun of a certain group of people, and you're kind of like, okay, I can't
what about
in my right mind use this
when Mr. Fischoeder on Bob's Burgers thinks that Bob is foreign, and Bob says, I'm from here, and he goes, oh, just swarthy then? And Bob goes, yeah.
I'm not saying it can never be funny to be a little racist.
Mr. Fischoeder also not an admirable man necessarily.
Yeah.
He's very much the Mr. Dawes Sr. of Bob's Burgers.
I was surprised with myself by how annoyed I am by Dick Van Dyke in this movie. The charm wore off at about a third of the way through for me, which is rough because there was a lot left.
Mm-hmm.
But I can still see it, like, especially if you're like, this is for kids, and you're like imagining a big goofy guy with big goofy legs dancing around. It's fun. But I was also surprised, number 2, by how fine Ms. Andrews is in this.
I am charmed by that. That was your first text to me. That's how I knew you were watching the movie, is that you said, wait, is Julie Andrews hot?
and
I said yes.
Yes. What do you think, everybody? Is Julie Andrews hot? Yes. Email us, yourinnerchildisanidiot@gmail.com. You can text us or leave us a voicemail, 615-576-0525, and we'll bring your voicemail out of the Disney vault once every 6 to 10 years.
Or we'll stick it on Disney Plus, but with a disclaimer in front of it.
Oh, yeah. The H word will not be tolerated.
Oh, yeah. What? Did you didn't even get a disclaimer for the H word in this movie?
No.
Sad.
We also want to thank our patrons, including Just Cuz,
Lindsay, Halik,
T. Smith,
Oh, are we doing Dick Van? Okay. Beth Surmont,
Particle Man,
Tuggle,
Jeremy Powlen,
the Elusive Gromkin. Oh, that was Australian. Sorry.
Karen Curd,
Jodie Passanisi,
David Mort,
the Ends of Fate,
Zachary Hartley,
Larissa Maestro. Still slipping into it.
Travis Vance,
Bill Haynes,
Tommy Boy is Damon's favourite movie. Shit.
the supreme ruler of this podcast,
Little Miss Chicken Nugget,
Caroline Amberson,
Zesty,
Josh Frigo,
Jackson, he has a right unhealthy obsession with Damon. Nope.
Lindsay now.
Jonathan Day.
Hey, no, name's Australian accent.
Well, shit on the cartouche I did.
Hizoner the mayor.
Captain Jean-Luc Picard.
And, yes, Dr. Malcolm's even bosom.
Somehow worse than Dick Van Dyke at Cockney accent.
We've broken new ground, I think.
Thank you, everyone, for your support. If you want to support like them, patreon.com/yourinnerchildisanidiot. And we'll do an episode if you get us to 100 new patrons, we'll do a whole episode in Cockney accent. So,
or we could just do a smorgasbord of accents under the British Empire.
We are losing subscribers. Let me go ahead and roll that back. We do not promise to do that.
Wow, I can't believe they listen to this live.
Okay, bye everybody. Bye.
Goodbye.